Let's talk about the Privy Council of the United Kingdom, or, to give it its full name, Her Majesty's Most Honourable Privy Council. What is it? What does it do? Why is it honourable? And what makes it privy? I'm Fredo Rockwell, and welcome to another edition of Strange Politics. In this video, I'm going to explore one of the strangest and least discussed institutions in British politics, the Privy Council. If you are from the UK, or if like me you have lived in the UK for a long time, you've probably heard of the Privy Council, but there's a good chance you don't know exactly what it is. Well, let me tell you. A long time ago, long before Parliament had become important or practically any of the UK's modern governmental institutions existed, the King or Queen of England ruled the country with the advice of their most trusted subjects. This group became more and more formalized over time, and eventually it became known as the Privy Council. Britain's political system has evolved a lot in the past 1,000 years or so, but this being Britain, the Privy Council still exists, and it still is, at least in theory, a group of Her Majesty's most trusted advisors. If anyone mentions the Privy Council today, which in all honesty doesn't happen very often, it is usually in the context of it being a quirky, outdated remnant of Britain's past, kind of like the print edition of the Daily Mail. But technically, at least, this is not true. Even though many responsibilities which originated with the Privy Council have been taken over by other institutions, and the majority of the British people are, for the most part, largely unaware that it exists, the Privy Council still sits squarely in the very center of the British state. Don't believe me? By the end of this video, I'm 100% sure you will be absolutely convinced that the Privy Council is really important, at least technically. Let me know if you agree in the comments, right after you press the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell. Now, a thorough review of Privy Council history would be very long and possibly a bit dull. So instead, I'm going to give you 12 facts about the Privy Council you probably didn't know. Buckle up, here we go. Fact number 1. Privy means private, not toilet. Privy is a word which comes from Norman French and means private or intimate, and therefore, starting in about the 1300s, the English king or queen's most trusted council became known as the Privy or Private Council. But for even longer than that, the word privy has also meant toilet. I mean, what could be more private or intimate? This term for toilet has been part of the English language for so long that it is used right round the English-speaking world, although in recent centuries it has tended to refer specifically to an outdoor toilet or outhouse. But just to be clear, Her Majesty's Most Honourable Privy Council doesn't have anything to do with toilets, other than a shared need for privacy. Fact number 2. The Privy Council is really into honourableness. Members of the Privy Council are really honourable, much more so than just regular honourable people. Members of the Privy Council, who are known as Privy Councillors, are always addressed as the Right Honourable, as in the Right Honourable Boris Johnson, or the Right Honourable Gordon Brown. The word right can mean different things, but in this instance it means exactly, or to its fullest extent. This is the same meaning for right as when I say, I slipped on a banana and fell right on my behind. Being right honourable means Privy Councillors are a notch above most other elected politicians in the UK. Normal members of the House of Commons are addressed merely as the Honourable.
Share the Honourable Lady's view.
But if MPs are also Privy Councillors, they are addressed as the Right Honourable.
My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, is...
A few select Privy Councillors are even more than just Right Honourable, though. These include 2 members who are Marquises, which is a noble title situated 1 rank below Duke. They are the Most Honourable, the Marquis of Lothian, who is the former deputy leader of the Conservative Party and is better known as Michael Ancram, and the Most Honourable, the Marquis of Salisbury, who is the former leader of the House of Lords and is better known to the world as Viscount Cranbourne. Marquises, as you may have gathered, are most honourable instead of merely right honourable, and in the upper ranks of the aristocracy, where this sort of thing matters, most is better than right. There are also 2 dukes on the Privy Council, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Duke of Cambridge, plus the Prince of Wales. But since these 3 are also royal princes, they are all styled His Royal Highness, which is way better than even most honourable. Fact number 3. Membership in the Privy Council is for life. Once the Queen appoints someone to the Privy Council, they stay on it forever, at least most of the time. This is important to the senior politicians who make up the majority of the Privy Council, because it means they get to be called Right Honourable even after they retire from public service. This is not the case with any Member of Parliament who doesn't make it to the Privy Council. They stop being called the Honourable as soon as they leave office. So if a politician wants to hear precisely how honourable they are for the rest of their life, getting onto the Privy Council is really important. As an appointee of the Queen, it is not technically possible to resign from the Privy Council, but it is possible to be removed for doing something embarrassing. Jonathan Aitken, Chris Huhne, and Elliot Morley were all removed from the Privy Council following criminal convictions. In 2013, former Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott asked Her Majesty to remove him from the Privy Council in protest of the government's handling of the phone hacking scandal. And she did. Fact number 4. The Cabinet of the United Kingdom is part of the Privy Council. Now this is a surprise, isn't it? The Cabinet of the United Kingdom, as in the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, and all the other secretaries, is technically a subcommittee of the Privy Council. This may sound unlikely, but it makes sense once you realize that the Cabinet as we know it is a relatively recent invention in British politics. For hundreds of years, England was run by the King or Queen with help from the Privy Council. Over time, members of the Privy Council assumed more and more responsibility. When King George I ascended to the throne in 1727, he wasn't a native English speaker. He was from Hanover in modern-day Germany. And he wasn't well versed in British politics either. He was happy to delegate day-to-day administration to his top Privy Councillors, which is how we got our modern-day cabinet. The fact that the cabinet is technically part of the Privy Council is now largely forgotten. The cabinet is not even listed as a committee of the Privy Council on the official Privy Council website. But it definitely is part of the Privy Council, and this means that anyone appointed to the cabinet has to also be appointed to the Privy Council, which is why all members of the cabinet are Right Honourable. Fact number 5. The Privy Council is huge. Yes, as everyone appointed to the cabinet becomes a Privy Councillor for the rest of their life, the full membership list of the Privy Council is huge and growing. There are roughly 650 Privy Councillors at the moment, and, as just explained, most are current or former members of the British Cabinet. Most, but not all. Other Privy Councillors include past and present Archbishops of Canterbury, Archbishops of York, Supreme Court Justices, other senior justices, and a handful of senior civil servants. Only current members of the Cabinet are allowed to attend the regular meetings of the Privy Council, however, and yes, there are regular meetings of the Privy Council. We will get to that. But first, fact number 6. Not everyone on the Privy Council is British. Yes, there are quite a few Privy Councillors from other countries, and I mean people who are not from the UK but are members of the UK Privy Council. Many countries which were formerly part of the British Empire have, by tradition, also had their senior politicians and judges appointed by the Queen to her Privy Council. These traditions have tapered off in recent decades, but there are still dozens of living non-British political and judicial heavyweights who are Privy Councillors. The biggest contingent is from New Zealand, which currently boasts 19 Privy Councillors. New Zealand no longer asks for outgoing ministers to be appointed to the Privy Council, though, having ended this practice in 1999. The Privy Council also includes 2 former ministers from Australia and former prime ministers from the Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jamaica, Mauritius, the Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Grenada, Barbados, Papua New Guinea, and the current Prime Minister of Belize. Fact number 7. The Privy Council has regular meetings. With 650 members spread all around the world, a full meeting of the Privy Council is pretty much impossible. But that does not stop smaller meetings from taking place on a regular basis, about once per month, to do Privy Council stuff. Remember, back in the day, the Privy Council pretty much ran the entire country all by itself, but over the centuries its powers have been mostly sliced off and handed over to other institutions, like Parliament, the Cabinet, judges, etc. But the Privy Council proper still enjoys a few select leftover powers. And, like the leftovers found in your fridge on a Sunday evening, the Privy Council's remaining powers are a bit of an odd assortment. They include the formal enactment of legislation from Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man, and Wales, but not the rest of the UK, a process known as royal assent, transferring powers between government departments, the granting of royal charters, including the charter of the BBC, officially declaring cities to be cities instead of just towns, declaring official public holidays, which are known in the UK as bank holidays because Britain, and the swearing in of new members of the Privy Council. We will come back to this in a moment. Privy Council meetings normally take around 45 minutes and are held wherever Her Majesty is at the time of the meeting. So if she is in Balmoral, her Scottish castle, the Privy Council comes to her. Meetings take place with everyone standing up, and its decisions, known as orders, have the force of law. At least 3 Privy Councillors need to be in attendance to make a meeting official, and one of them is usually the Lord President of the Council, an office currently held by the Right Honourable Jacob Rees-Mogg. Fact number 8. The Privy Council oath is not voluntary. Most oaths or swearing-in ceremonies begin with the new office holder saying the word "I," followed by their name.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
I, William Jefferson Clinton.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
But the Privy Council oath is different. It begins with "you," as in, "you do swear, by Almighty God, to be a true and faithful servant unto the Queen's Majesty." And instead of ending,
So help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God.
it ends, "So help you God." What this means is, the oath of a Privy Councillor is not something that someone says themselves. It is quite literally administered to them, whether they agree to it or not. The Right Honourable Tony Benn, who was a member of 2 Labour governments in the 1960s and 70s, was famously opposed to Britain's institution of monarchy and its trappings. When he tried to question the oath of a Privy Councillor at his swearing-in, he was told it was too late.
When they read it to me, I said, I haven't agreed. Oh, they said, you don't have to. So I said, what do you mean? They said, we have administered the oath. The oath is an injection. I never understood the title administration of oaths, but if I have an oath administered, I stand there and I'm changed externally.
Fact number 9. The Privy Council is a court of law. If you're an American like me, you are used to thinking of the 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. So far we have covered both executive and legislative powers of the Privy Council, but in fact it has all 3. Since its start in the murky depths of English history, the Privy Council has also been a court, as in a court of law. The Star Chamber, which is now a byword for an authoritarian court, was originally a committee of Privy Councillors set up as a court of appeal. It had the power to punish people for things it didn't like, whether or not those things were actually illegal. And much to everyone's relief, it was abolished in 1641. The Privy Council still has a judicial committee today, and it acts as the final court of appeal for the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man, British Overseas Territories, and 12 former bits of the British Empire from the Caribbean and the Pacific, including the Sultanate of Brunei. As of 2009, the final court of appeal in the UK is almost always the new Supreme Court, but the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council remains the final court of appeal in the UK for a few extremely obscure types of cases. These cases are appealed from the High Court of Chivalry, which is a real thing, but has only considered one case in the last 250 years, which was heard in 1954. The Court of Admiralty of the Cinque Ports, which is a special maritime court for part of the southern coast of England, and which has not heard a case since 1914. The Ecclesiastical Courts of the Church of England, disputes about who gets to sit in the House of Commons. Prize courts, which judge whether a ship seized during warfare, or by pirates, was done so legally. Not kidding. And the Disciplinary Committee of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, and I'm not making that one up either. Fact number 10. The Leader of the Opposition is on the Privy Council. In addition to every member of the Cabinet, 2 more members of Parliament are regularly appointed to the Privy Council. The Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, which is a fancy way of saying the leader of the 2nd biggest party in Parliament, and the leader of the 3rd largest party in Parliament, a position which doesn't come with a cool name. This isn't just a matter of being nice. There is a real reason. Remember that oath that members of the Privy Council get given to them. It contains a long passage, which includes a lot of promises to keep top secret stuff secret. You know, privy. By being a member of the Privy Council, leading members from other parties can be given top secret info with the understanding that they will keep it secret. This is not done very often, but it was done by the Right Honourable Tony Blair when he was deciding to send British troops into Iraq in 2003. He would update the Right Honourable Ian Duncan Smith, then leader of the Conservatives, and the Right Honourable Charles Kennedy, leader of the Liberal Democrats, using what are called Privy Council terms. This meant that whatever he told them, they had to keep it a secret. Fact number 11. The Board of Trade is part of the Privy Council. Britain's Board of Trade was founded over 500 years ago, and like the Privy Council itself, it has a long, complicated history. But, complicated or not, it is, like the Cabinet, a subcommittee of the Privy Council. In fact, its full formal name is the Lords of the Committee of the Privy Council, appointed for the consideration of all matters relating to trade and foreign plantations. By 1973, with the UK's admission to the European Economic Community, later the European Union, the Board of Trade became defunct. Following the 2016 Brexit vote, it was revived by the Right Honourable Theresa May as part of the creation of the new Department of International Trade. This department has so far done practically nothing, and is largely considered to have been a PR stunt for pleasing Brexit supporters. But there we are. In its current iteration, the Board of Trade has 16 advisors, but has only one official member, that being the current president of the Board of Trade, the Right Honourable Liz Truss. Fact number 12. Privy Councillors help proclaim each new monarch. Privy Councillors who are not currently members of the Cabinet do not attend Privy Council meetings, but all Privy Councillors are invited to attend meetings of the Ascension Council, which is not technically part of the Privy Council, but is still, constitutionally speaking, very significant. The Ascension Council meets within 24 hours of the death of the current king or queen, so it is probably hard to get to in time if you're a Privy Councillor from New Zealand or Belize. It meets once to proclaim who the new sovereign will be, which is something everybody already knows anyway, but at least it makes it official, and once more in the presence of the new sovereign. Privy Councillors are not the only members of the Ascension Council. Also invited to attend are the Lord Mayor of London, certain High Commissioners from Commonwealth countries, certain senior civil servants, and the Great Officers of State, which is an obscure and quirky group of functionaries who need a video all of their own. So that's it, or at least that's all I'm going to tell you for now. Oh, sure, I could explain how the Privy Council settles disputes between rival claimants to a baronetcy, or how the Iraq Commission, which investigated the actions of the Right Honourable Tony Blair and his government, was technically an ad hoc committee of the Privy Council, or how Queen Elizabeth has a whole other Privy Council in Canada. But that would take too long. And I'm also 100% confident now that you will agree that the Privy Council is really central to the workings of the United Kingdom, at least technically. Let me know in the comments.